Hey guys, this is Neil with Real Terrain Hobbies, and if you are new to the channel, we're all about creating highly detailed, realistic model terrain for tabletop gaming, for any diorama enthusiasts out there, and even for you model railroaders. So what we're making today is something a little bit different. I wanted to make a small terrain piece and something that I need for my gaming table, but I decided to turn this into a little bit of a diorama, just a small thing, a small little project, but I really wanted to make this realistic using some different materials, as you can see, and making this into something really cool. There are some challenges along the way, but for the most part, it's not too bad. So what we're making today is a medieval style water well. And I wanted to try something a little bit different, something different than the standard kind of foam stone. As you can see, I'm using some real stone for this, and I wanted to do some real life products just to get some more realism into this thing and to really make this thing pop out. So I tried using this, and as you can see so far, it looks not too bad. There's still a lot of work to do with this, but what I ended up using was some slate pieces, and all you have to do to find this stuff, these are just, see how thin that little pieces on the side there? Those are just little broken pieces that have come off of the bigger kind of slate that you buy at kind of your local stone place for construction, for decorative yard stuff. I bet you if you just went to them and asked if you could get some broken shavings, or even just buy one piece for 10 bucks, or you just say what you're doing and you just need some small pieces, they'd happily give you this stuff. These little shavings, they are garbage, and they're not useful for anything. So if they had those laying around, they'd probably just let you have some, or just ask to buy a piece from them, and then you can ship it off. They kind of slides off in layers, so that's where I got that stuff from, and I chipped it into these little stones. And then I just got these little branches. This is from my Christmas tree, which has been sitting in my backyard from last year. I've been slowly trimming off the branches. I use it as kindling for my fires in the backyard. So these are just some little pine tree branches that I'm clipping off here and using for that. So now again, the goal here is to make this look as realistic as possible. So I'm actually using some real tile grout for this. This is from a tiling job that I did in the house here a while back. You can actually just get, you don't need a big bag like that. You can get a little small tub of the stuff from your hardware store. And this is just a gray, it's just kind of just a cement color, a natural cement color. And so I'm just working that into the stone, and then the big thing here is you want to wash it off well from the stone. Like, it's good to go inside the cracks obviously, but then on the outside you don't want any of this sort of sitting on top of the stone. And I actually found later on a water spray bottle is good if you give it a spray. Once you wash most of it off with the sponge, just give it a little spray with a spray bottle, and it'll really wash it off the stone. Otherwise you're gonna have to be scrubbing it off later on to make those stones pop out. And then from there we just continue on with the wooden structure of the roof for this guy, and it's just more pine branches. I'm using 2-part epoxy glue. It dries really nice and fast, does a great job for this. So we're going with my tried and true method for making shingles, just using an oak veneer and cutting these into little squares and just an apology for the fingernails. I work all day long with my hands in a construction type setting, and I just get home. I wash my hands off, but I don't think about my fingernails. I don't think about my hands so much. I just get off work, wash up, have a shower, all that stuff, come down and start working, and I don't even think about how my fingernails are looking and whatever. So a bit of an apology there. I'm getting better with that, so I will be very cognizant of this in the future. Seeing as I'm so zoomed in on those things, you don't want to be looking at that. Anyway, moving on. We're painting up the roof here, and I'm using enamel paints. These are great for wood. This is and weathering of wood and sort of natural type things. This is what I use. They're great for blending colors together, and you want to use paint thinner with this. They're not water soluble. They're an oil base, and but they do a great job for painting and weathering wood and that sort of stuff. And then I'm using these Vallejo pigments. These are awesome for weathering. I got this pretty wet at the start here before putting it on. It doesn't need to be this wet. What I generally do is sort of dust it on dry and then give it a little spray with a spray bottle just to help it adhere. But you'll see I put a little bit too much of this on, but it's in a second. It's easy to take off again, and it's not that big of a deal. Alright, so with any of my projects, the absolute favorite thing for me to do is to add the flocking and the grass tufts and all of that. Man, it just really brings the whole project to life. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm just using some standard glue, and then I sprinkle this on. This is just for the moss for the roof and for some rocks. You got to add this stuff around. Makes it so much more alive. And now here I'm just kind of scraping off the excess of the pigments that I told you about earlier. But you can see it looks incredible, adding the moss and the grass. But now we're going to move on. This is not quite finished yet. We got to put in the crank for the bucket, for the well bucket. So I'm using this. This is some wire that I got from the hardware store. This stuff is actually for rebar for people that are doing concrete work. They add in the rebar and they tie it all together with this wire. I got this stuff from the hardware store again. And this is a sort of heavier gauge stuff. And just bend it into place, and it makes the perfect blacksmith. It's got the black look and everything, so your blacksmith, your medieval blacksmith would have made this bar, and it's the perfect little crank for our well. Okay, so here I decided to get a little ambitious and make my own bucket for the well. And so what I'm doing, I'm just using some wood again. I drilled it out, as you can see, and then I went to clip off the end. And nope, not happening. Just crushed the thing. But I didn't give up yet, so I decided to re-drill again, make a new one, and this time I'm just going to be using a different method for cutting this off. And as you can see, I used my razor blade here, rolling back and forth, and this was a much better method. It slowly cut away at it, and it didn't crush it, and it saved the overall look and structure. And we're able to use this as our bucket. And I just trimmed it up a bit just to make it look a little extra, get a little extra something here, and it's turned out really well. And for the bucket handle, I just am using some hemp twine that I got from the craft shop, and it works perfectly. Just glue that on with some epoxy glue, and it worked great. I wasn't expecting it to be so easy, actually. And there's our little bucket. What I was expecting to be a really difficult job turned out to be not so bad at all. So I'm using the hemp string again for the rest of the rope for this thing. I kind of did a fancy little knot here. You don't have to go so fancy like this. I looped it around a few times and then just took the end through all the loops like you would a regular knot. Just there's extra loops, if that makes sense. If not, don't worry about it. Just make a regular knot, and then I just turn it into the thing there onto the post, and I added some watered down glue on top of the rope just to stiffen it up so it won't come undone. So initially I just wanted this to be a standalone piece on its own, just for gaming. I can move it around and stuff on my gaming board. But this, I decided actually, I got to do a little extra, make it into a little bit of a neat little diorama piece. You can still move this around all over the board and whatnot. So I added this base, and I'm just gluing things on. And boy, this made a big difference doing this, as you'll see. And I'm just using some sanded grout again. That little tub that you saw there is a smaller amount of the grout that I said you could get earlier. I added some watered down glue. It didn't really soak in very well, so I just sprayed things down, and this hardens up perfectly, all said and done. And going with the theme of natural products to make this look really realistic, I, as you can see, used some branches. This is from a tree or a little shrub called sagebrush that we get around here. Those are just the dead parts that I pruned off some of those branches. And now I'm just using some peat moss, and this makes excellent, really good ground cover for under forests, under trees, and that sort of stuff. It's kind of got the bark look and all the tree or the leaves and branches that have fallen off over the years and built up this kind of bed, and it looks sort of a bit of dirt color mixed in there too. So I use that. It works excellent. And then just added in my flockings afterwards that you can get at any local hobby shop. And so just continue this around the base using a lot of the peat moss, and it really blends, as you'll see, and brings everything together really nicely. So we're getting close to the end here. We're adding on some leaves and branches and kind of filling out our tree there. This is a product from Woodland Scenics called Fine Leaf Foliage. It's a little pricey. A lot of people use sea foam. I don't have any on hand. I'll be getting some and doing a little tutorial on how you can make this stuff yourself instead of having to spend the extra for this product itself. But it looks really good, as you can see. And now I'm just adding in some branches and some twigs on the ground. This really brought everything together and really helps make this look like a natural outdoor scene at the local well, and I think it turned out pretty darn good. And yeah, guys, that's it. This is our finished project. This is I'm really pleased with this one. The stone and the grout looks really good, finishes it off very nicely. And we got a beautiful little piece of art here and a fantastic looking gaming piece. So don't stop here. There are plenty more videos on the channel. We've got an amazing little inn that is going to be wrapping up soon. A wizard tower, crazy stuff over there. Go check those videos out and stay tuned for much more to come. And also a big thank you to all my patron supporters. You guys are awesome and you really help me to keep going and to keep this up. And just a big heartfelt thank you to you guys. And if you guys want to be a supporter, go to Patreon and sign up there, and it will mean so much to me and do so much for the future of this channel.